Okay, this is section 6.78, properties of kites. We're on page 18 in the note packet. So, properties of kites. Pause the screen if you need to. In kites, we have exactly two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. So that means that AB and AD are congruent, and BC and DC are congruent. We have only one pair of opposite angles that are congruent. So we have angle ABC is congruent to angle ADC. We also have that diagonals are perpendicular. So AC and BD are perpendicular, which means we have right angles. So you can actually put this right angle all the way around. We also know that BD is bisected but not AC. So this segment is cut in half. BE is congruent to DE. A number 1. So we know that this is a kite, and we know that BD, angle B and angle D are going to be congruent to each other. And in a shape that has 4 sides, so 4-sided shapes, the angles add to 360 degrees. Some of you know that. Some of you have brought that up to me already. But if you didn't, all these angles, A, B, C, and D, all add to 360. So we're going to do 360 minus 85 minus 43. That leaves us with 232. And then we're going to divide that by 2 to get our angle measure for each. So measure of angle B is 116, measure of angle D is 116. Okay, number 2. So we have PQ and QR is congruent. PS and RS is congruent. So technically what we have, and then also we know PT and TR is congruent. So what we have a couple of different congruent triangles. So in PQT and triangle QTR, these two triangles are congruent. Same thing with these two triangles, they are congruent. So first, let's talk about PTQ. That's 90 degrees. PQT, that's this angle right here. Well, to find that angle, we're going to do 180 minus 90 minus that 37. So we get 53 degrees. So that's that angle right there. And because these two triangles are congruent, this angle in here is also 53. And then we know that 37 is also this angle. So QRT is 37 degrees. And that's because we have those congruent triangles. So if I mark that, these two angles are congruent, and these two angles are congruent, and this is a right angle as well. So all the sides and all the angles are congruent to each other. Okay. Number 3. So let's start off with the first easy ones. we know we have right angles all around our diagonals. So we know number 3 is 90 degrees. Now if we want to find 1, we have a triangle right here. We know 2 angles, we can find the third. So 180 minus 65 minus 90 is going to give me 1. So we get angle 1 is 25 degrees. And we know angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent, so 2 is also 25 degrees. This angle right here, that's 65 degrees, and angle 4 are congruent, so 4 is 65 degrees. Now we're on to a different set of congruent triangles. So we know 7 and 52 degrees are congruent, so 7 is 52 degrees. Now if we want to find 6, we're going to have to do 180 minus that right angle, minus the 90, and minus the 52. So we get 38 degrees for 6. And then we know that 6 and 5 are congruent. So I'm using this different marking so I don't have to do 4 congruent arcs in a row. It just gets too messy. So 5 and 6 are congruent, so 5 is also 38 degrees. Okay, number 4. RS is 10. RU is 9. We want to find QS. So that's the whole segment right there. Well, one thing we have to do before finding QS is we're going to actually have to find US. Because if we look at this triangle right here, we have a 90-degree angle. We can call this X. We can use Pythagorean theorem. So we have x squared plus 9 squared equal to 10 squared. The 10 has to be by itself because it's across from the right angle. So x squared plus 81 is equal to 100. So minus the 81. So get x squared is equal to 19. Take the square root. So we get x is equal to 4.4. I'm going to round it, 4.4. But we want QS. So we're going to take that measure and times it by 2. So QS is 8.8. Number 5. So here again we have a kite. We have one set of opposite angles that are congruent. And in this kite, that is US, or U and S. Those are the congruent angles. So that means we are going to set these two angles expressions equal to each other. Oops. Let's show some work. Minus 7x, minus 7x. So we get 6x minus 32 is equal to, oh my gosh, 22. Add 20, oh my gosh, guys, my bad. Add 32. So we get x is equal to 9. And then we can double check, does the answer make sense? So let's check. Angle S. If we plug in 9, we get 85 degrees. And if we plug in for angle U, we also get 85 degrees. So our answers make sense. And as you guys do your homework and you're doing your quiz and you're doing your study guides, be checking your answers. You don't have to write it out, right? But just check it in your calculator real fast and see, oh, does my answer make sense? Okay, number 6. So again, we're going to use the fact that any four-sided figure, all the angles add up to 360. The reason it adds to 360 is because if I draw a line right down the middle, that's two triangles, right? Two triangles, each triangle is 180 degrees, 180 degrees, 180 plus 180, 360. So that's why a four-sided figure adds up to 360. And in this picture, we know angles B and angles D are congruent. So this angle is also 109 degrees. So what I'm going to write is I'm going to write out the whole long equation just so it's in your notes, but you can write the condensed version if you want. 5x plus 14 plus 3x plus 8 plus 109 plus 109 is equal to 360. That is the whole long equation. We know all of these angles add up to 360, but we can actually shorten this up a little bit. So let's just combine some like terms. So we got 14 and 8 plus 109 plus 109. Add that all together. So we have 8x plus 240 is equal to 360. Subtract 240. Divide by 8, and we get x is equal to 15. And again, if you want to like look at all these numbers and go straight to this step right here where everything is condensed, that's fine by me. Okay. Number 7, we want to find the measure of angle FGJ. FGJ. That's this angle right there. That's the angle we're trying to find. But first we got to do some extra steps. First thing I know is that these two angles are congruent to each other. So let's find x first and get some angle measures before we start trying to find that other angle. So subtract 2x from both sides. So we have 3x minus 1 is equal to 11. Add 1. We have 3x is equal to 12. Divide by 3. We get x is equal to 4. We can plug that in. 8 plus 11. So this angle is 19 degrees. Now don't forget, we have a right angle here. And now we have a triangle. So we have 19 degrees, 90 degrees, and that missing angle measure. So we can do, 180 minus 90 minus that 19 degrees. So the angle we were trying to find, FGJ, this angle right here is 71 degrees. Okay, and then I just want to give you guys a couple hints on your homework since I'm not there. So on your homework, section 6.7a, kites, that's your last worksheet in your packet before your study guide. So if you go to page 18 in your worksheet packet, here is a couple hints to get you started on these last 4 problems. Remember, y and w are going to be congruent. So this angle right here is also going to be 96 degrees. And then all this is going to add up to that 360. So just take all those measures, add them up, put them equal to 360. in this one, number 13, that's kind of like the one we just got done doing in the notes. These two angles are equal to each other. Find x, plug it back in, and then this angle down here, we know we have this triangle and a 90 degree, just like that last problem. Okay, number 14. We have a triangle, this triangle SVT. These two angles are not congruent, but this angle, and the 90, all of those are going to add up to 180 degrees. And then we know that the angle we're trying to find, RST, when we know this angle, times that by 2. Because these two angles are congruent. So if you got one measure, you just got to double it. 15. So again, we got this triangle right here. All three of those measures are going to add up to 180. So add them all to 180. Then if you're trying to find HIF, can't actually times that by 2. So you're going to have to find this measure. We could call this angle Y. We know HIF is going to be Y plus that 7x plus 3. So this angle plus this angle. And this 46 is going to come into play to help you find that Y. Okay, there's my hints for the homework. Good luck. I will be checking homework packets on Monday.